If you listen to a lot of lecture style philosophy videos on YouTube, there's a good chance you've heard or seen lectures by a professor named Dr. Michael Sugrue. Most of his lectures feature him standing and walking back and forth in front of this blue background. And one of the things that stands out about him is that he doesn't really use any notes or slides or anything when he's lecturing. He just kind of walks back and forth on the stage. Yet the way he speaks is it almost sounds like he's reading from a book, but he's just a very eloquent, really talented lecturer, and that really stands out. But what's also interesting about these lectures is that they were all filmed during the 90s as part of this VHS series called Great Minds of the Western Intellectual Tradition. And as far as I know, a lot of these are out of print and therefore very hard to find. But now a lot of them are online thanks to people putting them up on YouTube. I was watching one of his lectures about a month ago, and I was wondering, whatever happened to this guy? Like, I only really see these lectures from, now almost 30 years ago in some cases, and was kind of wondering, what's he up to? And it was weird because only like a week or two later, I'm subscribed to his YouTube channel, so I got one of those community posts from his channel. It was from his daughter, Genevieve Sugrue, and she was letting subscribers know that she and her father were now co-hosting a podcast together called The Idea Store. And so the professor is alive and well, and he's co-hosting a podcast with his daughter, which is a really cool dynamic. They describe the podcast as an informal series of conversations about philosophy. So I just wanted to talk about that for a few minutes, talk about why I like it, and point more people in their direction so they can experience it and enjoy it as well. So you can find this podcast pretty much anywhere. You can find it on Spotify. You can find it on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Podbay, Listen Notes. And I don't know if you can listen to podcasts on Anchor or not. I haven't used Anchor before, but I know that's what they use to record it. The first episode came out on July 9th. They were talking about Kant and the categorical imperative. They did a couple episodes on Kierkegaard, a couple episodes on Brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky. And the last episode that they did, which just came out a couple days ago, was called Assorted Topics. The first episodes that I listened to were the Kierkegaard ones because Kierkegaard was my first love in philosophy. He was the first philosopher I ever read. And I still love Kierkegaard, even though, as Dr. Sugrue says, he's totally effing crazy, as Sugrue says many times in the episode. Really hits home on the craziness of Kierkegaard. It was interesting to hear some of the things Dr. Sugrue was saying about Kierkegaard because they connected back to some themes that I saw ran through a few of his lectures from that series, that Great Minds series, which I guess we could refer to as the Athens-Jerusalem divide. I forget exactly what he calls it, but he frequently makes reference to this attempt to reconcile or either drive a wedge between Athens and Jerusalem. And Athens and Jerusalem are, the way he's using them, are meant to represent the spirit of reason versus the spirit of faith. Athens being reason and Jerusalem being faith. And Sugrue talks about how there's been people that have tried to unite the two. There have been people that have tried to drive a wedge between the two. And Kierkegaard, he says, is one of those latter kind of people that want to drive a neat divide between the two. I also noted at the beginning that one of the things that I think stands out about Sugrue's lectures, those like VHS lecture things, is that even though he doesn't use any like notes or slides or anything like that, his way of speaking is very eloquent. I'm not there yet. I have notes here. I'm not like that. So I really like seeing someone who is. But then in this latest episode of their podcast, he's talking to his daughter about that. And he actually says, if you need notes, you're not prepared. I thought that's a really interesting take. How could someone live up to that, though? But then he goes on to say, very beautifully, talk about how in the early days of philosophy, that's how Socrates would have taught. Socrates didn't have a laser pointer and, PowerPoint presentations and stuff, and he didn't even write anything. So it's something interesting to think about. Overall, I think it's a really cool dynamic having Dr. Sugrue and his daughter just having these really casual conversations about interesting people and interesting ideas. And the episodes are short. They're maybe 10 minutes long each. Some of them are even a little shorter than that. So they're cool if you're waiting for a bus and want to listen to something but don't want to fill your head with junk food for your brain. Maybe want to get some philosophy in there, but don't feel like, I can't listen to an hour-long lecture on Stoicism right now. I don't have time. You just put on this, 10-minute conversation between two people, sharing their love of philosophy, which I think is really awesome. And I like the humor. I laugh a lot while I'm listening to this, and they laugh a lot, which is cool. Humor and philosophy, sometimes people don't think they go together. Sometimes people think philosophy should be serious all the time. But I think it's a distinctly human discipline, philosophy. And therefore, I think humor is very important to it. So I really like it, and I'm really looking forward to hearing more of what Dr. Sugrue and his daughter talk about as their podcast continues, and I wish them the best of luck. And I encourage others to check them out. It's called the Idea Store, and you can find it pretty much anywhere you can find podcasts. And I'll also put a few links to it in the description. Thanks.